that delay. Hi everyone, welcome to the Novice Grand Finals for Zimbabwe's Easters Open. My name is Ezeri Chidimna Grace and I am your chair for these finals. I would like my panelists to please unmute and introduce themselves to the rest of the house.
Hello everyone, am I audible?
Yes,
my name is Collins.
Yes, you are.
And my name is Collins, panelist for this round. I wish all of you all the best and good luck to everyone. Lovely finals to you all. Yeah.
Thank you, Collins.
Yeah, so I'm Abida, a panelist for this round as well.
Mascot.
Hello everyone. I'm hoping I'm audible. My name is Mascot and I'm going to be one of your panelists for this round. Good luck to all the teams that have made it thus far.
Okay, thank you all so very much. Just a reminder to the speakers, you are encouraged to take POIs and you can ask verbally or using the text space via Zoom, and you are asked to actually respect the speaker's preference of POI and do not badger when they're giving their speech. You can turn on your video camera if you want to, and if you don't want to, that's okay. And we'd like to welcome the Prime Minister to start off the debate. Here. Also, I'll be timing you guys personally, and then you can also time yourself for speech. If you overuse your time, I'm just going to turn on the video and then give you signal by waving my hands that your time is up. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'll be taking POIs through the text space, and I'll begin my speech in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The world that we debate today is one in which from side opening government will characterize as a world that introduces about more equality. We feel as though the world that we prefer from side opening government is a world that identifies and solves a problem that we believe exists in the status quo. Right. Firstly, from side opening government, we want to make it clear in today's debate that in reality, we believe that gender fluidity exists already in transgender, transnational identity exists too. So we think that what's happening in the Kambala is different totally because one, it's outside of one's choice. So the way people treat each other is solely out of humanity because we then inherently become equal on features. That is where we introduce the idea whereby from side OG, we tell you that under the world that we prefer, there is more equality, right? That is our metric of preference. We prefer this world because we believe, one, it brings about more equality, it fosters fairness, benefits the minorities, and because of that, we would prefer a world like Kambala, right? We also want to prove in today's debate that we believe the status quo, the world we live in today, has reached a point of no return, where we believe that yes, change exists, but change is minimal due to historical factors and other and mindsets that people have grown up with. We believe that in a hypothetical world like Kambala, where one's personal attributes are ever changing on a daily basis, we thus end up with a situation whereby one day a person might be a male, the next day a female. So we think that by that we bring about more understanding, and because we thus have that understanding, and we thus have that with us at that situation where people are become equal on features in a way, we think we eliminate a lot of a lot of bad that happens in the world. So what is the problem that we have identified in today's in this debate? We think that the world that we prefer from side opening government is one in which it benefits the minorities because we feel that they are minorities that are necessarily looked down upon. We think that when we have a world whereby people's attributes change on a daily basis, at some point they will also be having the same traits as the minority has, and due to them having that, as we say, we think this brings about equality because it introduces the space whereby a person is able to understand, a person knows that one day it will be them. And we think that mentality thus eradicates the whole concept of looking down upon another person because they are of a group that is viewed to be part of the minority, right? Allow me to also dive into a comparative analysis where I want to interrogate two worlds, right? We have world A, which is the world we live in today, and world B, which is the world that we prefer from side opening government, right? Which we're calling Kambala in this debate. We believe that in the world we live, we have a lot of cases whereby we see there's gender inequality. We see a lot of people not being able to accept themselves because of how they look, right? We think that in such a world, and as much as it has its benefits, we think we benefit more from world B, which is the world that we prefer from side opening government, where we think that in as much as, yes, racism, gender inequality may still exist, we think that there is less of that because people become equal on features, right? So we think that we have less of that hate that we see in modern day society existing in the world that we prefer. We think that it also brings about a lot more peace because a person might hate them how they look today, but the next day it's different. So we think that that journey of being a different person every day is something that people may actually find exciting, and we do not see the existence of that excitement in the world that currently exist, right? We also want to give you an even if analysis, where we are saying that in today's debate, we think that provided that side opposition comes and argues that our world is not as perfect as they that our world is not as perfect, we then want to tell you that even if the world that we prefer is not as perfect, it still stands to be better than the opposing world. Because why? Because we think that in our world, one, I've already mentioned how it benefits the minorities. It benefits the minorities in the sense that as people change on a daily basis, we find that at the end of the day, there's more equality that exists in our world. We think it introduces a little bit more of fairness, right? Because we tell you that we manage to eradicate issues such as gender inequality from our side of the world, right? So what is the impact of the best and worst case scenario, or the even if analysis as I was giving, right? We tell you that in this world where people's attributes are continuously changing, in the worst case, one might say that this leads to there not being an identity crisis. We refuse to be told of such cases by side opposition because we think in the hypothetical world that we debate in today, one's change in personal attributes is what actually makes their identity. So we refuse to be given arguments that then argue that in a traditional sense of identity. We think that the world, this hypothetical world, completely alters and changes that impact or that view of what identity is. And we think that this shifting of personal attributes is what actually becomes one's identity. And we think that because it is so diverse, it is something that is entirely beautiful that we do not find in the world that exists today. I will take a POI from CGCO, if they have one. Okay, I'll take it. They do not. Moving on, that's the worst case scenario, right? Where they tell us about how there might be an identity crisis and things of the sort, and they may tell us about criminology. I think the criminology analysis is something you will get more from my deputy. But what we mean by this, by talking about how, yes, we do understand opposition might say this allows for there to be higher crime rates as a person may not be able to be identified, whatnot. We think that we have a certain level of crimes that happen in the modern day world that are associated with people hating another person because of their race, because of their gender, because of their sex, right? We think that in our world, therefore, we managed to eliminate these crimes. And as much as crime rates might still be there, we think that we managed to eliminate a certain amount of crimes, and we think that that is something that is beautiful. That is a problem that is actually being solved. We do not believe that that the opposition side will be able to prove to us how in any sense the world they prefer solves criminality, because we are giving you an alternative. The world we prefer seems to solve issues of issues that have to do with criminology better, right? So what do you get from my speech? One, I give you a metric of preference. I give you the problem identification, where we tell you about minorities, fairness, equality. We give you a comparative analysis and an even if analysis, where we tell you that even in the worst case of our world, it still stands better as opposed to what the word that opposition prefers, right? So with this, we have never been prouder to propose. Thank you.
Would like to thank Prime Minister for that fine speech. Would like to welcome leader of opposition. Here.
Yeah, please, I'd like to confirm I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Thank you very much. So I'll be taking my POIs in the text space. Most especially, I would like a POI from CG for engagement's sake. So with this, I start my debate in 3, 2, 1. So panel, first of all, let's understand on the basis that whatever Prime Minister came to do, just left the whole house hanging with them not showing how and why they whatever they say is actually important and is needed, right? But then before that, a little bit of characterization. Panel, let's understand that over the years, society have always thrived on some basic things. That's to say, even in a hypothetical world, some basic things need to exist so as for society to thrive and for us to have a balanced society. Panel, with this, we're not conceding to the fact that society is so perfect and that there's nothing wrong with society. We actually accept the fact that there is a lot of harm going on in society which needs solutions and other things at any particular point in time. But then, panel, we have to understand that even with all the minors and other defects that exist in society in the status quo, after I'm done with my debate, you come to actually understand why we, from the side of opening opposition, at no point in time will actually prefer a word like that of Kambala, right? Now, but before then, what do we get from opening government? So, opening government made us understand that whatever they are going to do is actually going to benefit minorities the most at any particular point in time. Because then these people are now going to feel how the minorities, like the gays, lesbians, and other people, to be specific, people in the LGBT community or black people feel at any particular point in time. But then, panel, we think this does not bring solvency because then people are just accepting them because I feel tomorrow or the next day to come, I might be the black person and I'll be racially abused, or the next day to come, I might be the gay and everybody will stand up what stoning me because then they feel that I'm a gay person and I need to be treated that way. We think people will only treat these people that way because they feel it might be my own the next time so that nobody will treat me that way. But panel, we think better solvency exists in a world whereby individuals are now treating people based on how they actually think that they should be treated. And this can only be achieved when people come to understand other people, even without being in their shoes, but then understanding them from their own lenses, in their own perspectives, right? That's why in the status quo panel, we have straight people fighting for the right of gays and lesbians, even though they are not straight, they are not what? Homosexual people, because then they understand what these people feel. But then let's go to the issue of crimes. We feel that a word like Kambala is just going to be an escape mechanism. Now, these people say that crime will be eliminated. Panel, note clearly that Prime Minister did not show us how crime was going to be eliminated in their world. But then, in our world, during my argument, I'll let you know how crime is actually going to be something very problematic in a world like that of Kambala, for which counts to the reasons why we do not what preach or prefer to such a world. But then, let's understand that the people we should consider in today's debate, one, include the individual who is having changes in their attributes daily. Then let's also consider the family system because then the infoslide have given the power that these people will procreate at any particular point in time. Then lastly, panel, let's consider the society. To start, panel, let's understand with my first argument that the human society have forever always thrived on stability due to some things that exist. That's to say, the family system have been one of the things that have carried the human race from time to time up to now. We still know that the human race is not perfect. But then, the family system have been able to create a standard system in society whereby individuals do not feel and do not mix up. That's to say, if I should be a black person today and wake up being a white person the next day or an Asian the next day, then panel, what we actually get in such a world is a world whereby people do not have any kind of identity and the world is not a structured one and everything is just messed up. That's to say, in a world whereby we are all being mixed up and at any particular point in time, then associations and other things, panel, the side government might think this what problematic, but then panel, let's understand that association of people to a particular group of people have forever served as a unit of inclusion. That's why society always needs a gender to belong to a sexual preference, and then a race and even religion at the highest point of it, right? We think societal balance is something that is actually going to be screwed so much in a world like Kambala, which will cause a lot of problems. One, the family structure. Now, with the fact that procreation will happen, we think at any particular point in time, such children who are being born should know a particular person they assign to as parents who has to take care of them. Now, what happens in a world like this is the moment people have their preferences and other things changing day in, day out, then we come to have a world whereby individuals do not even care about the kind of people they procreate
And
at any particular point in time. And this we feel is a world that is very what problematic. Please, the person whose mic is unmuted should mute it.
Authorization, yeah.
Oh, you have a POI.
From
Okay, so panel, next argument. We believe in a world of self-accountability and marginalization of self-actualization. Panel, take note of this. Panelists understand that the moment people like the LGBTQ members who have actually identified as a gay, that person needs a very long time to actualize and understand themselves in the best possible way. That's to say, that person, if they wake up the next day and feel like a lesbian, they are not going to get any absolute time and accurate time to actually understand why I identify as a gay or why I should be a black person, even though white people feel that I'm a what? A useless race and I need to be wiped out with respect to what? Ecofascism. Panel, we think that individual needs this at any particular point in time. Then to the issue of accountability, the changes of sex, race, and other things at any particular point in time, panel, we feel is just going to be an escape mechanism for individuals who want to take their own actions at any particular point in time. That's why I keep on throwing the question to the side of government, which I'm expecting CG to do a better job because OG have failed fatally to show us how things like crime and other things are going to be best managed in a world like theirs, whereby the changes in attributes actually serve as one of the best kind of escape mechanism to all kind of individuals who can exist in the society. Now, what utility do we serve in a world, or what do we benefit from a world like which we are preaching, even if it is the word of the status quo, or if it should even exist in a hypothetical world other than that of the world of Kambala? Now, panel, we come to have a stabilized society. Why is this important? A stabilized society then helps the human race to thrive like it has always done over the years. With this panel, we come to see that individuals who exist in the society who achieve that kind of self-actualization, which are showed with examples of racial profiling and other things, and how gays, lesbians, and other minorities who exist in society are going to have better things for their own life. Then on the issue of accountability panel, we think at any particular point in time, human agency and responsibility should be something. People can only actualize when they accept their responsibility. Actualizations are not achieved when people actually have escape mechanisms and other things to run away. With this, we've never been so proud to win a tournament.
The House thanks Leader of Opposition for that fine speech. We'd like to welcome Deputy Prime Minister here.
Okay, so cool. I'm going to assume I'm audible, and please, for PIs, please put them in the text space. I'll be able to take them. Okay, so I'll begin in 3, 2, 1, go. Well, panel, notice that some clarification is needed of how the Kambala world looks like, right? We need to concede that in this world, you're going to have like a changed identity and not a fixed identity. One morning, you might wake up and find yourself in the US. I'm going to show you why we prefer such a world, right? For years, for far too long, what has happened currently is most of the major problems in the world are attributed to personality or to what humans are, right? What this looks like, it's like, for example, how Hitler believed because he's a German and Germans should get revenge, that resulted into World War II, right? Or how the Muslims believe that, you know what, they're supposed to spread like Islamic fundamentalism. They result into extremism and terrorism, right? What that looks like is like how most of the minority group are marginalized and oppressed in society, and they do not get any form of betterment or redress, right? Which is attributed, or which is a clear link of how the personality of a person or of how people are, of what people are, right? So we think that major problems such as war, poverty, all these things are attributed to human attributes, right? What that necessarily means is that the instability that exists in society is directly inclined to what humans are, right? Take a case in example of like how Putin is regarded as a warmonger, or they believe they are Russians because of that historical background. They believe they should be aggressive, right? So necessarily what O wants to argue that, you know what, we think that there is some sort of stability that exists in society, but we tell you, what we think that happens in society and the forms of instability are all attributed to these human attributes. And I'm going to show you how the world of Kambala tries to solve these problems, or actually solves these problems, right? Notice that when these attributes are fluid, they're going to eliminate most of these problems, right? Like an example I give you, if Hitler one day found himself, like for example, in US or anything, there would be no need for our, right? Or these wars that happen, or these oppressions that exist in such a society, they would not necessarily exist, right? How you can have like the minority groups existing, one day they woke up and they find themselves like part of the majority or anything, right? But secondly, another clarification of what we think the nature of Kambala looks like is that what happens is that all humanity is inherently equal on all futures, right? Meaning that you do not determine who is like a majority or who is like a minor in that society, right? It necessarily means that inherently everyone or each of the humans that exist in that world are equal based on those futures, right? So we do not expect arguments such as that you're going to have like in that world where you're not going to have like stability, all that shit, right? But even in the best case scenario, in the worst case scenario that we agreed to that, right? Notice that even though we do not have that stability, but you solve like majority of the problems that exist in society, like wars, due to that fluidity that is going to exist. But before I continue, let me engage OO, right? What do we get from OO? OO says that we think that crimes are going to increase because this is some sort of mechanism where people are not going to be held accountable for the crimes they commit. But also, secondly, they could hide or anything, right? But Pano, notice that most of the crimes that exist in society stem from the circumstances that these different people face, right? At the point in time that you're going to have like minority groups who are under systematic oppression, then they are inclined more to commit crimes because they need survival, or they're inclined more to protect themselves in such a society, right? In such a society, that's why you find like vigilante groups rising up and you're having murder cases existing because of the circumstances that are forced within the groups that are there existing in, right? What that necessarily means, it shows you that majority of the criminals that exist are some sort of people who have been under some form of oppression, right? But in the world of Kambala, what you do is that you create a world where these people are never going to find themselves under such oppression, and you reduce those crimes, right? But in a whole world that they do not prefer what is going to exist in society and all that, why we can never agree to prefer society, is that people are still going to face oppression. But also secondly, we think that these people are still going to face like some backlash from society. But thirdly, these crimes are not going to be reduced at any point, right? What that necessarily means is that people are going to continuously be marginalized. They're going to continuously live that under that oppression. And those circumstances are the ones that are going to force these people to commit these crimes, right? But on the flip coin of the side, in our world, what you rather do, you eliminate these circumstances, or you eliminate these people that are going to be inclined to those circumstances. And in that instant, they do not commit crimes, right? What you do is that you reduce like the crimes that happen, or you create some sort of stability that they want on their side, right? So we think that the stability that you get is actually pseudo, and it's not exclusive on their side, right? But you need to all to notice the world where you get more stability, a world where you're going to have people like all identifying like that, right? But before I tackle the identity point, I'll take a POI. POI.
Yeah, POI. So before the panel, let's understand that Deputy Prime Minister actually screwed the info slide by letting attribute look like locations, but it isn't. But then my POI, the societal structure and balance of human society have frauded till now. How is this still maintained in a world whereby people can escape from the responsibilities and what they have to fulfill at any particular point in time? Engage.
Well, panel, notice that we think that what happens in all this world is that these people, all these responsibilities they have, it's sort of catered for in that world, right? What that necessarily means is that they're still accountable to these people, or they are still like they're still accountable to whoever, if they have a family or anything that they have to take care of, right? What that necessarily means is that even though you're going to find yourself in a new family, because this is like a hypothetical motion, you're going to find yourself like in a new family where they're going to take responsibility of you, right? But even though we wanted to engage them on the whole societal order and how it is disrupted, right? We think that that is like something, even though we agreed, we think that that is something that is minor compared to what brings about instability of social order and all that, right? What we think that disturbs the social order is why you're going to have things such as like famine or such things such as poverty or like refugee crises that are happening, right? We think that also those problems make people to escape the responsibilities that they're supposed to do in the real world, right? But what you do in our world, you cater for these people to sort of get like somewhere else to go, or it provides for them that form of escapism that they want, and they live in a better world without such circumstances existing, right? So on the flip side, we think that we prefer a world where the harms are minimized and the benefits are maximized, and where we think that these people are going to actualize, right? We think people actualize in society when there is stability or when they're not facing any forms of oppression that do exist, right? But also, we need to all to notice that what happens in Kambala, like how Runya tells in his speech, that we think that what happens in reality is that gender fluid exists already in transgender, right? They all exist. But then what the world of Kambala does is like totally different, right? Because this is outside your choice. You cannot choose to oppress people or anything, right? So the way people treat each other is inherently equal, right? And that is one thing we need all to engage and show us that, you know what, like the identity or this identity they talk about is more than equality, right? But then I'm going to talk about how it benefits society and all this, right? Notice that on the economies and all this shit, when we're having things that are disrupting all these things that are happening, or the wars, or the poverty and everything that happens, what you do in the world of Kambala, you create some sort of stability, not only in how humans interact, but you also create stability in how economies operate, right? What that necessarily means is that if someone found themselves like how the developing countries and the developed countries are, you sort of destroy that hegemonic structure that does exist, right? What that necessarily means is that you get like people coming, like one day you're going to find yourself in the US. Okay, cool. I would just never been proud to, yeah, that.
Okay, thank you. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me? Okay,
You're
your time is
audible.
up. Okay, can we have the deputy leader of opposition here?
Okay, so panel, please please confirm in the text, please, that POI in the text. If I'm ready to take you, I would mention your name to unmute. Okay, so I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So panel, opening government makes it look like this is a world where there's going to be so much perfection and stability. And the assumption that ever-changing gender and race is something that is going to eliminate abuse and inequality is very funny, right? So the idea is just saying that when you wake up and because you can be a child today and then an adult tomorrow, there's going to be that kind of like strike out of inequality. Why do you think this is true? Then why do you think this is false? Engagement to OG's case. We get from DPM when says that, oh, there's going to like problem that exists in status quo is about like minority marginalization and other things. We already concede in our world where we tell you that we do not say status quo is perfect, but then there are other ways to make sure that these inequalities and other marginalizations are taken care of. And the world you are preaching doesn't necessarily solve the problem. So we do not just get solvency in the world of the opening government, right? So we get again that, oh, there's going to, because there's a fluidity in attributes, is going to solve marginalization. And he says that, so today you can be a baby, tomorrow you are going to be an adult, and the next day you are going to be a minor. Why does it affect her analysis on accountability and saying that there's going to be a reduction on crime? OG makes an assumption that, oh, the only people who commit crimes in society are circumstantial, and these are people who are marginalized. So the assumption that probably white people do not commit crimes and go to jail is something that is very funny, because we all know that like crime is not circumstantial, maybe in like certain instances. But then the generalization by saying that like everyone who commits a crime is a marginalized person is like, it's not true. So when they say, oh, like when they say, oh, these people are the people that commit, we believe that status quo is something that is going to like solve the problem, right? Because even in status quo, like rich people and other people who are not black and marginalized and other things like commit crimes. So this is something we do not believe. Accountability, as I said, is something that does not exist in their world, and it's a lie when they tell us that, oh, there's going to be accountability, because you get from opening government when they say that you can be a baby today, you can be an adult tomorrow, you can be black tomorrow, you can be a minor tomorrow. So it means that if you commit a crime today as an adult and you become a baby tomorrow, That kind of accountability is something that doesn't exist because we can't just follow you around waiting for you to become an adult. If we arrest you on the day you become an adult, then the next day you become a baby, it means we cannot prosecute you. That is something that like goes like a cyclical event in their world, and it's something we believe like shouldn't be like condoned, and Kambala shouldn't be a word that we prefer. When they say that, oh, people actualize when there's stability. Stability is false in their world because, as I said, it means that today you are a minor, tomorrow you are an adult, tomorrow you are a baby, the next day you are black, the next day you are brown. Stability doesn't exist. Identity is something that is not there in their world. When Elo asks a POI is that how is societal balance so maintained when there's escapism in Kambala? It is not engaged by opening government because you realize that escapism exists in their world so much and there's nothing they can do about it. So preferring a world such as Kambala that OG wants us to believe is the best place to be is something we believe that is not going to solve the societal problems that they have like greatly identified in their world as marginalization and other things. We believe that Kambala is not going to solve it, and it's something that we shouldn't be preferring in today's debate, right? So they say that, oh, diversity and other things. So we say that the uncontrollable nature of the change of personality is what is problematic, right? You need to be able to control it, like what is happening in status quo. When we say, oh, you wake up one day inside, say, oh, I want to change my gender and other things. We think that's legitimate and that's something that exists in status quo. And the idea of saying that, oh, we are just going to have like this kind of like fluid nature of saying today, like you're going to be this, tomorrow you're going to be this, it's very problematic and we do not buy it into it in our world. So panel, two things I'm going to talk about is, I'm going to talk about human agency as an extension of what Elo already said, and I'm going to talk about social responsibility and how social order is maintained in our world and it's non-existent in the world of the government from like what they want us to believe in. So panel, human agency, you already get from Haneef when he tells you that, oh, in human agency, that kind of social responsibility, personal responsibility is something that exists. So how do we lose like social human agency in their world? So in their world, instability exists as opposed to what our opening government wants us to believe, right? We say that change is made on a daily basis. So at every point in time, you do not get that kind of like stability you need to do all the other things you do. What is the impact of like how this instability in the world of like Kambala, in the world of the opening government has on the human agency? You realize that society has strived so much on like human agency and how human beings have autonomy and are able to be responsible for their actions. So when you adopt or prefer a word like Kambala, you're indirectly saying that we should destroy human agency and make sure that everybody can do what they want. What this like brings about is chaos in society because nobody knows where they belong. Identity crisis is going to arise, and then people are going to just continue doing what they want to do because at any point they are going to change like identity
from CG.
and there's no kind of like accountability and stuff. Like I said, put it in their space. I don't like that. So when we say that, so social order is not going to exist, right? Because in their world, you say, oh, there's going to be that kind of fluidity. So there's no social order because today, someone is the president, like Biden is the president of America, right? Tomorrow, Biden becomes a baby in Kenya. So it means that there's going to be collapse of governmental structures. There's going to be collapse of social structures. And that human agency that exists, that is keeping society afloat and creating that balance is something that is not going to exist, right? So in the next extension, I'm going to talk about the social responsibility. When we tell you that in the world that government is preaching, there's going to be collapse of social responsibility. What do you get in our world? In our world, there's stability. In our world, you get better accountability because when you commit a crime today as an adult, tomorrow you are still an adult. When we conclude investigations and we find out that it is you, we are going to prosecute you. There's better accountability because when A commits a crime, you know it is A. The person doesn't become C tomorrow in America or become E tomorrow in Kenya or become like D tomorrow in a different country altogether. That kind of stability exists and it leads to a better accountability in our world. When we say that there's going to be upholding of like human agencies, right? When we say, oh, what we have today, the criminal justice system, the family system as Elo already expanded, is something that is going to become like very good and something that is going to exist, right? So when we say, oh, there's going to be upholding of these things, and it's something that doesn't exist in the world of the governments when they say, oh, we just prefer to be like a mouse today, tomorrow we are going to be this, tomorrow we are going to be this. That inconsistency is something we believe it's not going to be good for the human race, and it's something we do not buy into, and that's why we do not prefer Kambala in today's debate. So, panel, we talk about social responsibility, and we tell you that how like that their work affects social responsibility. There's going to be that like how so like quality of social interaction is dependent on the length of time and the stability of engagement. That is something you do not get from their world because every day, tomorrow my boyfriend is going to become like a girl in America. Probably the next day he's going to become a baby in Ghana. It's something we do not believe is healthy for human relations, right? And in their world, human relations is going to become non-existent. So in our world, what we are protecting is a better human relation, a stability of human agency. societal balance is going to exist, and that kind of float is going to be there. You get better stability in our world, there's better accountability, and human agency, and what we have known for centuries and decades is something that is going to be maintained, and family structure and other things are going to be there. What you get in their world is a collapse of social balance. What you get in our world is that social balance is going to be maintained. Societal structures such as the criminal justice system, democracies, governments, and other things are going to be maintained. Family system is something that is going to be cherished and maintained in our world. We've never been proud to win a tournament from the opening opposition.
We'd like to thank DLO for that fine speech. We'd like to welcome member of government to open up the debate for the closing half. Here.
Chair, sorry, just give me a minute. Like my network is just messing up here, so I want to find a comfortable space. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Member of government.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible and stable. Please proceed.
Okay. All right. So for any pure eyes, please just button and mute. Yeah, then I'll check you if I'm taking you. Otherwise, yeah, I'll be beginning my speech in the next 3, 2, 1. Two things, panel, that you have to understand in the course of my speech before I do any justifications. Number one, within the universe, usually in belief detects how things are and the possible outcomes of particular things. We think individuals undergo a particular thing and they say it's karma and karmatic justice being responsible to the universe, and the universe brings that kind of a thing on you. We think you don't choose what then happens on you, but then the series of events just naturally happen. At the end of the day, there's a particular result, and well, we then say the universe has done it again. That's number one. Please note that. It's very important to understand that. Then number two, we think individuals generally act differently in as much as they know that there's a difference, but then they act differently because of the particular perceptions that they have, the perceptions that are generally different. We think the philosophy that you have to understand is the world exists in terms of a perception, and you can never understand that kind of a perception when you're under different circumstances, right? And then the human mind can never like exactly appreciate something that it has never underwent or undergone at the end of the day, and that becomes fundamentally important. So we say once the human mind then is an appreciation and understanding of those different things at the end of the day, then it's able to function and have that particular understanding, then relate because of the understanding that it necessarily has at the end of the day. The moment you are able to relate to a particular something, then the mind can inversely or properly work. The reason why you might have a lot of injustices within society, or have a sort of segregations and stereotyping and biasness, racial injustices that exist within society, necessarily is because the individuals on the end of doing such a thing haven't been on the other side, and the pains and difficulties of individuals who are actually inflicted on, or the individuals who are feeling this kind of pain. We think the moment in time where you find an individual segregating someone for being a minority or for being black, or someone is being segregated from being Jews and discriminated, is because those individuals have never been on the other side, right? But then it's not only about the minority, right? It's about also the individuals on the other end who also inflict that pain. They've never been on the other side, so their appreciation of that kind of a thing then becomes limited. Now, not panel. In today's debate, what we want to do is not just to achieve a world where individuals are just necessarily changing out of no fate without any meaningful reason, right? We want it to have a meaning and individuals to be able to function at the end of the day. That is to say, we want individuals to be able to apply the changes as they change and to be able to functionalize within society. It's not just an ordinary change, and that someone will become a baby today, then tomorrow will become an adult, then they'll become a grandmother, whatsoever. Ours is a strategic type of world, exclusive from Sishi. This is what what you're going to get. This was prefers a world like Kambala, right? Where individuals alternatively have no choice but then to change at the end of the day. But then you have to understand the reasoning as to why those individuals then change at the end of the day within society. You don't just change just because it's the nature of that type of a world. We think we justify our type of world of Kambala by saying that individuals change when there's a particular level of uncertainty in their functionality, and individuals maybe are undergoing the idea of, let's say you are a black person with stereotyping or discriminating individuals. The moment you are at a point in time where you are at a level of uncertainty, where you are at a point of level where you discriminate individual, remember what I told you about the universe alternatively always choosing what is best for individual until you have a particular understanding for something. We think it's the same thing in this instance. The ability the universe then has at the end of the day to then detect how you then exist in a type of world at the end of the day, and how you are then able to functionalize until you have a particular appreciation of something with the type of world that we want. The universe then detects that as a method, or as a method means by which you gain a particular level of appreciation if you are found on the end of unwanted or on the end of not appreciation, or instilling a particular level of harm on individuals within society, whether be it minority or majority, or failing appreciation, then this kind of a thing then happens. Why is this fundamentally important and a bit different from everyone else? Because we think it's necessarily important for us to have appreciation. We not and say that no, if this is just out of ordinary means without any justification, then it feels the idea of meaningfulness at the end of the day within society. It wouldn't make sense at the end of the day for Chidimna Grace to be constantly changing and becoming a different person each and every day until she dies. Then there's no meaningful ideology. The only thing you'd have gained is the different aspects. But then how are you going to be able to apply those differences at the end of the day within society? That's why it's then fundamentally important to characterize the type of world that we want as a world where we want to achieve a particular level of meaningfulness. Then individuals can then function in that particular state, right, of having that particular understanding, right, and the differences that are there. You don't just change because, well, we're just changing out of nowhere. Want to achieve meaningfulness, and meaningfulness is betterly achieved if there's a particular reasoning to a particular change that someone undergoes at the end of the day within society. So we want to create that kind of a perception, and once you have a particular perception about why whites are doing this and about why the black movement is doing this, then there's meaningfulness because you then apply that particular change at the end of the day in your daily existence. This then becomes fundamentally important. We think a utopian society is where the social status is then experienced by each and everyone within society, then we can betterly function. We think if you want to end things like racial injustices and discriminations or biasness, or even the good part in having an understanding of differences of culture and people and the reasoning as to why they do different things, we think appreciation is betterly enhanced on such a stance. Then we like appreciate it from that regard, right? Then it becomes fundamentally important to exist in such a scope, right? We think it's important on a level, on a lot of levels, right? We think the moment in time where we're able to appreciate the differences that individuals have, then you can properly functionalize at the end of the day. We think at a point in time where you are able to understand, number one, the functionality of minorities, or even the activities that majority individuals generally do it again within society. We then think this then becomes fundamentally important, right? So we want to achieve that form of level of growth, that form of level of understanding it again within society, right? We think a particular level of unity is only betterly maximized or enhanced at a point in time where individuals are able to have that different understanding and appreciation. We think you can then only achieve that kind of a unity when you are able to appreciate after having experience because of whatsoever. Then can you create unity? But then you don't do that at the end of the day. We think at a point in time where opening opposition's case is generally based on the climate, on the ability of how, number one, they're thinking that they're going to be having crimes in what. It's very funny, James, to talk with that more. But then let me enlighten you something. Within the type of a world doesn't solely exist as an independent system. Within the idea of laws still biasly exist. But then we think even involvement, let me educate you a bit on biology. If this is the type of world that we're having, right? The DNA sequence of an individual are not most likely going to be changed, and the character. Yes, whatever is important, just kidding. Right. So we want to say that no, you're evolving in your personality, in what you look like, but then the inner being, whether it's the DNA sequence whatsoever, then it still actively exists at the end of the day. So if it's a means of justification by which you reach a level of justice in which yours alternatively exists, then we'd like to think that it's legitimately justified within that regard, right? So whatsoever laws that you're talking about, right? So we think as a means by which we're achieving those kind of important things, by which achieve self-actualization, understanding of different narratives, and doing away with tendencies within society, then it becomes legitimately important. Why would we think we prefer something within society? Number one, we prefer this type of a world where we create a particular level of understanding, do away with biasness. But then why is our type of world a bit different from what OT already brings you? We show you the differences that exist in our type of world on how we want to maximize on the idea of appreciation. And we think appreciation and acceptance and meaningful change can only be achieved at a point in time where individuals
work, you have that kind of an understanding, and when you have an understanding, you are then able to apply those changes as you function yet again within society. Proudly, what are we? CG.
The House thanks our speaker for their fine speech. Which would like position here.
Okay. Member of opposition. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. Is there a text space in Zoom? No, there's no text space. Okay, please, I'll prefer my POI to come around my 4th minute, so like there won't be much badgering while I'm talking. I don't know how the timing is happening. Okay. Is want to show the time or like remind me of
there's a text space actually.
Oh, how do I locate the text space?
There are 3 dots beneath your screen that says more. Just click on it and you see chat. That's where the timing will happen.
Okay, fantabulous.
Have you found it?
Yeah, I found it. Okay, so I'm ready when you are ready.
You can proceed. Proceed with your speech. I'm ready.
I'm starting in 3, 2, 1. Okay, Madam Chair, in the course of today's debate, like I think the debate has been so messy from all the teams. So like from CO, we want to like give you what this debate should have been about for both golf and for up, and then show you how best our team wins, right? So first, understand how this debate for government should have been about solving the harms of like best circumstances, right? Where people don't get to choose or consent to the particular like part of life where they should be, whether they should be male or female, whether they should be Negro or Caucasian, whether they should appear fair or appear dark, tall or short, right? So understand how this is like the boarding opening government has to show us how this word of Kambala, which is a word that provides people with like the with the opportunity to always switch these things, is a better word and a word that eliminates that harm of the best circumstances, right? Now, this is how they failed. First, they come to tell us about how these things give people like more room for consent. First argument from CO, we tell you that this word is even more like of a marginalizing word than the best circumstances, right? First, because this word is a word where people have an imperative to switch multiple races, multiple gender, multiple identity without even still having to consent to it. Understand how, because of today's debate, once you subscribe to this Kambala, once you support this, prefer this Kambala word, it means everybody is going to be part of this Kambala word and is going to be affected by all that happen in the Kambala word. Now, understand how I don't even get to choose if I want to be male tomorrow, I have to be female tomorrow. It still boils down to natural circumstances, which the Kambala life depicts. So guess how OG failed on the idea of equality, right? Equality does not come into play because first, in life, there always exist preferences, right? Preferences must always exist. So even at points where people have the right to switch preferences, it doesn't change the fact that people will still prefer one thing to the other. Now, understand how men might still be the dominant, dominant part of that Kambala society, and how women might still be oppressed. Understand how people will look forward to being in those particular strata of society where acceleration happens most. Understand how the equality is even much in their world, because first, you get people who are not even proud of where they are at the particular point in time because they preferred where they used to be previously, but because they could not consent to them, they have to wait until they could find a chance to get there better. Now, the inequality that exists, that people feel oppressed by circumstances or the fact that they cannot even get to maximize the pleasure of having to remain in an identity they prefer for long enough and don't even have a control of how long they stay in this. Why is this bad? This is bad because it will create more notion of uncertainty in the mind of people, where people don't even get to live life to the fullest because they're not sure of whether what you're working today will still be present tomorrow. This takes me to my next argument on how this will eliminate track of personal achievements. Understand how achievements of in life are always tied to identities. Identities like gender, identities like races, identities like appearance actually determines how people like tie their achievement to. Like someone that's a bodybuilder ties their achievement around their appearance, right? And at the point where they keep visiting the gym to get this body appearance and they have to lose it, because they have to like make compulsory changes, we think this is bad, and we from side CEO says no to this, right? So understand how at the end of the day, people who put in a lot in a particular identity or a particular race or a particular appearance to achieve what gives them joy or what gives them maximum like a pleasure get to lose all this progress because they have to switch to a different appearance that totally contradicts with everything they worked for. We think this is bad, and this is like self-defeating to whatever OG wants to achieve on equality and on people's self-actualization. Now, to the next argument, like we show you like how this doesn't like this causes like more problems, right? Because we will lose traction as how people lose this traction for taking care of their current identity, right? So understand how people mostly like women take care of themselves because their women want to look beautiful and they want to continue like having appeal from men and having appeal from society, right? So now you have men trying to like pursue like the society nuances for men and like try to like be the best they can be as men, maybe make money, have like things that makes them look appealing to the other gender. Or now, when these things happen, right, you see people being unwilling to even develop traction for a particular, like each particular like section of life, right? Why is this problematic, right? The problematic part of it is because these tractions are actually needed for people to actually live with and actualize their life, right? When people live their life without having like any particular love, any particular traction for a particular place or a particular identity or a particular appearance which they find themselves in, it hampers on their ability to even want to like continue living, right? And this could lead into people like feeling so depressed because maybe you finally got yourself into a minority group which OG is trying to bring you out from to a majority group where other forms of problems still exist that will not allow you to really enjoy yourself, right? So understand in today's debate why we support this world where Kambala does not exist. It's because first, we tell you that human beings thrives by identity and like particularism, right? When people actually have a particular thing that they protect, a particular when people have a particular thing that they protect or a particular thing that they love or a particular thing that they have to like continue with, first they get to start loving these things because they understand that there is no way they can opt out of this, right? Secondly, they at least even when like there are things like can be changed like appearance, at least they have to meaningfully consent to these changes, unlike in the Kabbalah world where it has to be a chaotic change without your consent. But in our world, even when people want to change their appearance, they can subscribe to go for a plastic surgery and get it on consent, or subscribe to like take other maybe transgender measures or other measures that will give them the chance to change this thing. So how does CO win this debate? CO win this debate because first, we told you that the majority of burden governments has is to show us how best this thing solves circumstance of birth, and which they don't, right? Even their arguments actually like put more burden on people and even worse than the best circumstance, right? Because people now get to like chaotically change like sides of life without even giving consent to it, and we think this is bad from CO. We are the team that showed you how people best actualize when they are tied to an identity, right? Even though we cannot like on earth, you cannot like entirely get people who particularly like their identity, right? People who exist that will think they can have a better thing, right? But still, people thrive better in identities, right? So, and those identities are what makes them feel fulfilled and make them feel the need to wake up every day and keep pursuing life, no matter how it is. So at the point where we eliminate this, what we do is that we place them at a disadvantage to hop around and like live in a life where they don't have any achievement, and even when like they try to achieve, the next day you wake up and the achievement is lost because you have to forcefully migrate to another part of life, which is not what you've been there. With this, I'll be so proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker, for your speech. Right, welcome government whip. Here.
Hi, I hope you can hear me, right?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me and then you can see me. Just hold on. All right. Yeah, before I start, shout out to Leo. Thanks for making us reach the final. Let me get my, I'm going to keep the, what's it called, the chat space close by, so that if you have any particular question, I'll be able to take it. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Panel, I agree. This debate has been so messy. Deliberation will be so bad, but like, let me try to clear it up for you. What I'm going to do is first of all show you Leo's case, but then engage your position and then weigh how things come into play. One, from Leo, you get a very, very good case in terms of one, how we look at things like appreciation and why they particularly become important. But secondly, things of choice, shared experiences, and self-actualization. But let me try to run through all so that I get to our side. One, why do we win above 00? 00 has two hideous assumptions. 001 presumes that you're going to change geographically. One, I think this is like totally wrong because the motion presumes personal attributes. Personal attributes do not entail you changing geographical locations. That is to say, why this necessarily true is that one, people who are born in Africa are not all of a sudden going to wake up one morning and they're in German. Like that is so unrealistic. But second, they don't give us analysis why this in of itself becomes something that is fundamentally true. But sadly, Leo provides you analysis as to why this particularly will probably happen at a particular age and like a particular threshold when someone becomes of a particular age. That is to say, why this becomes important is that one, their whole idea on why you change geographical and why it becomes bad can't stand because you prove that it is an unrealistic assumption. We're looking at personal attributes. But secondly, the problem with opposition teams is that they presume that we are in a lawless society. We think the society we are in still entails laws. That is to say, because there has been progression in the society, even adaptation of laws has been improved. That is to say, I may have a chip in my body. So when I wake up as a woman, you can still track me. When I wake up as a bisexual man, you can still track me. That is to say, there still exists order in this particular society. That is to say, the so-called clash that happens in opening half on terms of crime and what is still on our side. Why? We prove two things like crime are not going to exist in this particular world simply because these particular people are being able to have the capability, like they're still lawless in society. That is to say, crime is still going to pick up, there are still laws. But secondly, there's this, and why that is important is that it answers the idea of accountability. That is to say, in terms of accountability, we're able to prove to you why inherently accountability is going to be good. Because the accountability that comes from opening opposition is that one, you can't track criminals. We proved that there exists law in society. But secondly, laws in of themselves adapt to fit to the particular people in that particular society of Kambala, something like that. So in essence, feels like accountability from opening opposition don't stand. But secondly, feels like social order are so, I don't even know, like they're not right. Because their whole idea on social order is that one, you get a society where people are lawfulness. Understand, COVID came, we didn't know we would enter lockdown. But because of the fact that it has been uncertain, we have been able to adapt. Understand, when people keep changing their personal attributes, it becomes a new normal and people then live their particular lives like that. That is to say, feels like social order are going to only exist where there's not going to be some level of certainty. In our side, there is certainty because you know that the next time waking up as a man, as a woman, as a what, that is, there is certainty. So social disorder is not going to exist. Accountability done, social disorder, geographical stuff. And now this is the thing. They said that we don't have an identity. Understand, the benefit on our side is that we identify as human beings. The difference with side opposition is that things like identities, where we strictly look at particular identities, makes us segregate ourselves. It feels like racism exists because there's a strong appeal to things like identity. So you think that particular things don't exist. But secondly, identity crisis is symmetric in both sides. Their side, people, like in our normal world, people get identity crises. There is not, they didn't give us analysis to prove why it doesn't happen on their side, and we think it's something symmetric. So they can't win on that. So that thing is out. But secondly, why it becomes important is that on our side, we identify as human beings. The benefit on our side is that we don't look at particular sub-identities, but we identify as all human beings because we know our identities are not sustainable. It's not one particular identity. But the second thing that is going to take out opposition is this. Opposition teams think that I'm not going to become a black man the way I am today. Your personal identity is still going to be the same. There are times where you're going to change back that identity that you always had. Why that becomes important is that it takes out this chunk of analysis that comes from CO in terms of one, not being able to eliminate your personal experiences or your successes. Understand, in our world, we still get successes because as a black man, when I become a black man again, I can identify with those particular attributes of mine. So in essence, we actually benefit those things. So in what that proves that one, CEO's idea of like eliminating personal attributes and that doesn't run. Why? Because in our world, the fact that you can still turn back to that particular identity that you presume or like is still going to be there. But the most important thing that you can take from me that is going to take out opposition is that one, when attributes keep changing, it becomes a new normal and people have the capability to adapt. I'll take OOCO as a speech. Be fast. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, sorry. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, so the control and certainty you are preaching in your word does not exist. How does control and certainty exist when the info slide say there's going to be like daily changes? So human beings do not necessarily control the change they go through. Engage.
Okay, Dan, understand. The fact that human beings keep changing attributes every day, that is the certainty. If you're certain because every day you're going to keep changing, you don't like put all your energy on one particular identity, meaning you have less potential to not be like disappointed or what. The certainty is in the fact that tomorrow morning you're waking up as a man, as a black man, as a black woman and stuff like that. Is done. The other ideas of escapism. Escapism is good. Why? We give people the capability to be happy in those particular identities that they may want to actually attribute to. CO doesn't have the case. CO talk about like things of non-equality, but like we don't really mind. Like equality on our side is not going to exist, but like it's something symmetric. Why? Because on our side, people identify as human beings. You think that is far much better rather than identifying in sub-identities. We find identifying in sub-identities becomes so problematic. Secondly, the idea of choice. Understand, lottery of birth exists. So until they prove why, they will support things where there's not exist like lottery of birth, we win this debate. CG, why do we win? One, the nuance to present to you is that one, as you keep on changing your attributes, there is a daily, you have the capability to express the daily experiences you learn. That is to say, when I'm a black man, I put in practice those existing experiences in the next identity. That is the nuance which has the capability to gain us things like unity. That is to say, we gain unity on two aspects. The fact that you practice those daily experiences that you get, but secondly, the fact that you identify as a human being in of itself becomes something that's so fundamental. But secondly, shared experiences still exist in our world. So in terms of appreciation, understand, giving blacks laws that segregate them is not the same as understanding what a black goes through. Our world puts you through those experiences, but not only those particular laws. I can give you a law, but I don't like you. So that's fundamental that exists. But secondly, why we also win is that one, on the idea of evolving in personality is important because as your personality evolves, as you change attributes, you have the capability to understand those particular people. Why we rank above our opinion? Our opinion looks at minorities only. Our side magnifies the benefits in terms of how it looks like one, and not only minorities, but also whites have problems. Become a white, understand their problems because like those systematic things that exist. We win from CG primarily one, our benefits are more broader. We look at everyone. But secondly, we show you why appreciation is better on our side because one, people have the capability to be able to like put those daily experiences, unity and shared experiences. Yeah, thanks, regardless.
Thank you very much, Government Whip, for your speech. I'd like to welcome opposition speaker, the opposition whip, to wrap up the debate. Here.
Okay, so panel, am I audible, please?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. So panel, first of all, notice how these guys claim that, let me take the OG first of all. Notice how they claim that their world shows, how they think that their world shows solvency or brings like solution to matters or problems of society. Now we tell you, a situation whereby people change identity daily. Today you're a certain person and tomorrow you're a different person. How does that actually solve the problem in status quo? How does that make people, be adamant in solving problems that they face with different days? Because when you have an identity experiences and problems are tied to identities. So how does that bring solvency when you are faced with different problems that is tied to a particular identity each day? So panel, we feel that has been taken down in today's debate. So panel, the closing the government we came to tell us, and he told us about if this keep happening, people get used to it, and it becomes a norm, and then people will definitely find traction. People find traction at the end of the day. So what did my partner tell you? Now, this can't be a norm because people will become victims of the switch and have to imbibe the nuances of this new identity. You see situations whereby people would not find traction in any way because they learn how to live with the new identity that they find themselves with in every particular day. You see situations whereby these guys look for ways to find traction in each identity that they find themselves in. You see, we notice how this world will still notice how there will still be preferences in their world as people notice how there will still be preferences as notice how preferences will still exist in their world as people still want to prefer a particular identity that is best satisfying to them, which equates to a disordered and a disorganized society. Okay, I'll take a period.
Even when preferences still exist, the fact that people keep changing attributes entails that those particular preferences won't be the best for them because they keep changing. So they have the capability to understand those experiences they get in those different attributes.
Now, notice how identities and people are tied. And if there's going to be a switch in identity, it's more or less you're starting your life afresh. So understand how this identity hampers on traction of a particular individual as identities, experiences, and even problems are tied to a particular as progress and traction are tied to a particular identity. Now, what did my partner tell you? Now we came here to tell you about the fact that this in their world, there's more or less an infringe in the right to choice. Notice how these people do not even consent to this change that they undergo daily. Notice how these people at the very end of the day are not given the right to choose the particular identity that they want to, take up the next day. And notice how this is very, very much problematic in their world. Now, why is this problematic? Notice how when you found a particular traction in a particular, identity, when you found a particular level of acceptance in a particular identity, and the next day you have to change and, take up another identity. We feel that it's problematic because it's more or less like you're, it's more or less like you have to facing another problem or, taking another level of life at the end of the day. So with this, we feel it's very problematic. And the very fact that these guys are not given rights to choose this particular identity that they, that they will take up the next day, we feel that it is very problematic. And with that the totality and entirety of the OGs of the government's case has been taken down. So now we also tell you that this we also tell you now that identity equals self-actualization and equals fulfillment. These people now, when there's like a shift or a change in their identity daily, we see that these guys do not reap the fruits of the hard work that they place in a particular identity. We see that these guys, after getting to a certain level of traction in a particular identity that they find themselves in a day, that you see that even after getting this level of traction, you see that they do not even reap the fruits of the labor that they put in that particular identity, because at the end of the day, the very next day, they are changing into somebody, they are having a totally new identity that may, put them in a particular that may put them in a particular circumstance that they didn't plan for. Notice how there's inability to maximize the pleasure that comes from notice how there's inability to maximize the pleasure that comes from changing identities. Now, notice that when these identities are changed, maybe from a particular identity to another identity, even though you end up or at the end, in the long run, change to an identity that you most likely prefer. Notice how the joy of preference of that particular identity is not totally maximized, because you have to still change this identity and move to another identity that you most likely did not plan for in the long run. Now,
Now the OG came here to tell, the PM came here to tell us about, people will definitely find it exciting to change identity. Now, panel, we feel that is laughable and very problematic, because to the very extent where people, because we've told you that people's joy, people's happiness, people's traction, people's problems, and in fact, everything about a human is tied to identity. So how will you find it exciting to change from the identity in which you're finding traction into another identity? We feel that's very problematic, because the very point where a person maybe changes to an identity that he most likely didn't plan for, changes to identity that he never imagined he would be. How is that going to be exciting? How is that going to be how is that person even going to gain anything from changing identity? So finally, how is our world better? Now, since we've shown you that you find more traction, you find more self-actualization when there is no change in identity. Because even though you may find yourself in a minority group, at the end of the day, in our world, we see situations whereby you put forth a change that is, very recognizable, and then there is need for change, not just necessarily like running away from your problem by changing identity. Now, why is their own world problematic? We see that their own world is problematic because in their title, because we've told you that most of the things that people find self-actualization is tied in identity. Now, in their world, you see that there is more inequality, there is more marginalization, there is an infringe in people's choices. And with this, having shown you how the entirety of the case of the government bench has been taken down, we are proud to oppose and win today's debate. Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for that wonderful finals. Good luck to all teams. So all speakers are expected to leave the Zoom call so I can deliberate with my panelists.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the final. Bye.